This video is really about giving up and accepting the reality of the world we live in today. She's not yours, just give her back. A woman should be a part of your life rather than the center of it. Women don't care about the challenges you face, they wait at the finish line and pick the winners. This coaching client is extremely successful, and I've known them for more than half a year now. A well-seasoned man who makes $2 to $3 million a year and has a significant net worth is struggling with a problem. I'll read it to you so you can understand what's going on. He says, "What do you do when you know that 95% of women will just use you? Because of who you are." He is talking about the level of honesty in a relationship. Here is how I see this question: what do you do when someone is using you for your connections and not for whom they are? I'm not even sure if that's what he means. Because of who you are. If they insisted that I use my connections rather than who I am, then that would be a warning sign for me. If I were in that situation, I would try to find out where they wanted the relationship to go. If they insisted that I use my connections rather than who I am. The reason for this is that he's basically at the end of his career and pretty much done. At this point, he doesn't need to continue to work for the rest of his life. Despite the fact that the relationship started out well, I probably wouldn't continue it because of this. But because he will get such a large payout in the end, he doesn't want to take any chances with it, so he's doing the right thing by not making women or a woman the focus of his life. Instead, his purpose and mission are still the focus of his life, which is why a woman who is much younger than him is interested in him. This discussion is really about letting go of ideals and expectations and coming to terms with the reality of the world we live in rather than trying to make it into something it is not. You can see that my arms are a nice shade of red where they turn brown over time for me. This is because I come out early in the morning to get some vitamin D. If I stayed out here all day, I would get severely sunburned because I don't tan very well. If I stayed out here all day, I would be burned to a crisp. The truth about my connection with getting my daily dose of vitamin D in the morning is that I have a time limit on it, and she nodded in agreement. She wanted to know what had happened with a woman but didn't want to push him away because he'd already made a decision about their partnership. I suppose, and I think we should end this here. His term was final, and she thought about arguing with him. She wanted to know what had happened with a woman. She was powerless to make him continue talking against his will, and the woman in question has already been eliminated from my life for the time being. I do not know what the future holds, but for the time being, she will have to be patient. Eleanor asked once more, "I know you're trying, but what do you think is going on?" despite the fact that she already knew the answer. It's one of the things guys struggle with, and I have no choice but to acknowledge that it's not something that goes on all day. When you know women for what they are, you can move forward in logical, concise steps and make the right choices so you don't get burned by them. This is not a bad thing, and when you accept the reality of women and who and what they are, you can move forward. The fact that they don't have very successful relationships with women is the source of much frustration and annoyance for a lot of men. I mean that the majority of women have only a third of the upper body strength of the majority of men, and they are not built for physically demanding work such as hunting and gathering, which is what we did for millions of years before modern civilization. We built roads, homes, electricity, cameras, and other things. If women weren't hypergamous and solipsistic, which simply means that they always want to feel good about themselves, we wouldn't have been as successful as a species. You can't choose your personality, but you can attempt to change it 95% of the time, and the truth is that it's all women. They'll keep you around for as long as you're useful, and that's a depressing reality. That is a stone-cold, hard truth, and there are some people who just can't handle it. There are also some people who have a very difficult time swallowing that jagged little pill. But when you accept it, when you give into it, and when you realize that women do not love you in the way that you hope they will love you, then you can move on. As time goes on, what will happen in the sexual marketplace is that it will become more hostile to men in general, and men want women to love them the way they thought women should love them. Because of the damage that this poisonous strain of feminism is causing to the sexual marketplace, you have no choice but to accept it with this information in mind. Only when you accept the world in its current state will you be able to live in it and comprehend that it is. When someone in North America buys a ticket to a football game and goes to the stadium, they are participating in what is considered to be the most popular sport in the world, which is either football or soccer. They are aware of what they are getting themselves into. They are going to watch two teams compete, and there will be a lot of noise, including boos, cheers, and screams. They are pleased with the results, as there is no noise other than the sound of a drop hitting a pool. A person is standing in the middle of a large room that is packed with people when all of a sudden, they hear a noise that they are pretty sure is an explosion or some other kind of catastrophe. As they begin to panic, a drop falls from above and hits them on the head. I'm referring to a man who is at least 40 years old. By the time you reach that age, you should have your children out of the house, and this particular man's divorce is finalized. When you get to that age, you need to make sure that you don't live in a way that the state will see as marriage if you live in a common law place. He's paid a settlement, and he has no more responsibilities there. His kids are almost adults, so he's just paying for college now. But when you get to that age, you need to make sure that you don't live in a way that the state will see as marriage. I would listen to the best advice my attorney had to offer, which might be simply not to take the chance because it is not worth it. I believe all men should have that conversation with themselves, and they should also educate themselves on the domestic violence laws that apply in their region. Because there are some insane women in the world, it is estimated that 1 in every 5 women suffers from a condition known as borderline personality disorder. Because of this, it is risky to be in their company if they falsely accuse you of engaging in domestic violence. If your wife claims that she was assaulted and the story turns out to be false, you could end up in jail and lose all of your money and assets. On the other hand, if you don't believe her, you could be arrested for domestic violence and face serious consequences. She has the ability to report you to the authorities and put you in jail. Given that women are more likely to be awarded custody of children following a divorce, this can present some challenges. Therefore, it is essential to have a solid understanding of these essential aspects of the community in which you reside, as there are a great number of wealthy men in the world who have achieved financial success and have access to resources. Therefore, there is no reason why you shouldn't pay a lawyer for an hour or 2 of their time to find out what the family law is like in your area with regard to women, and then you should just play the game by those rules even if it means you will never live with the woman again. You can do this by consulting with a local attorney. Therefore, why would my father want to become a lawyer in the first place? There are a lot of possible explanations for this, and it's extremely challenging to understand his reasons for doing so. That's all I have time for today.